Oftentimes, when us power scalers and battle makers look for a versus battle, two crucial questions converge in the process of creation. 1. Does the battle thematically make sense? And 2. Is it a good battle? Luckily for all of you, I believe that we have found a matchup that easily satisfies both questions. Today, we will have a battle featuring two god slayers, beings who took on mythical levels of power to slay their godly opposition. On one side is Kratos, the legendary Ghost of Sparta from the iconic God of War game series, and in the other corner is Gorr the God Butcher from Marvel Comics, who was recently featured in the MCU as a somewhat notable threat. So if these two slayer of deities were to collide, just who exactly would come out on top? I will review both characters' origins and key stats and abilities that will help determine just who would win. For Kratos, this will include all his abilities and accolades in the games, and for Gorr, we will examine his infamous run in Marvel, as well as scaling relevant to him. Now, without further ado, I proudly present to you, Kratos, the Ghost of Sparta, versus Gorr, the God Butcher. May the best God Killer prevail. What up guys, real quick, I'd like to give a huge thanks to Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video. It is a VPN service developed by top cybersecurity specialists and IT engineers, which was created to make surfing the web easy to access for everyone, which currently has more than 6 million users worldwide. Atlas VPN helps block harmful ads, malware, malicious links, and trackers, helps keep your internet searches private, and allows you to unlock your favorite content from all around the world if you can't access a specific show due to your geographical area. So for example, you'd be able to watch the new Bleach anime or the hilarious Rick and Morty from wherever you are. It also works on all devices with your subscription, which is easily the best VPN value in the market since it only costs $1.70 per month with 6 months extra with a 30-day money-back guarantee if you are in any way dissatisfied with your experience. So be sure to check out this special Black Friday deal by clicking the link in the description below, as it is a limited time offer. Once again, for $1.70 per month with 6 months extra. Thanks for your attention, now let's get back into the video. Kratos is the widely popular main character from the God of War franchise, which includes multiple games, books, and comics. While his story is epic and detailed, given he has literally cleared an entire pantheon and moved on to another, I will try to do my best to condense his origin and key background information. That way, even those unfamiliar with Kratos will be able to leave with a solid understanding on who he is. Born in Greece, Kratos and his brother Deimos grew up in a village, subjected to a fate they were not yet privy to. As they grew, a prophecy reached the ears of the Greek god himself, Zeus. A son of his, a marked warrior, would one day be the one to slay him. He dispatched Ares, the god of war, to get this child. Upon arriving in the village, Deimos, who had a weird scar, was spotted by Ares and snatched up, and Kratos tried to save his brother, but was scarred in the process. Devastated by his weakness and inability to save his own brother, Kratos would soon brand himself in tattoos similar to Deimos' appearance, and would seek the strength to protect everyone he loved, no matter who his enemy was. Little did they know though, Kratos was indeed the son of Zeus and he would have his revenge. This journey led him to becoming an insanely powerful warrior, one who was made a leader in the Spartan army. And Kratos' unwavering resolve made him a target for Ares, as Kratos showed he would do basically anything to save his daughter and wife, even if it meant fighting literal beasts of hell. Unfortunately, even after defeating these champions, Kratos would later be tricked by Ares into slaying his own family. And this would be a massive catalyst for Kratos to begin his war upon Olympus, determined to bring down the horrible gods once and for all. And so, this rampage would lead Kratos to slay multiple gods and eventually even Zeus and Ares, at one point taking the throne of the God of War for himself. After speedrunning the Greek pantheon, Kratos retired and was eventually dragged into a completely different world. Here, he settled down and had a kid, Atreus. Little did he know though, he and Atreus were soon to be dragged into a Norse mythological battle. After the son of Odin, Baldur, invades his home, Kratos and his son embark on a journey throughout the realms to defeat this Norse god. Eventually, Kratos does defeat Baldur, and at the end they found out his son Atreus is destined to be Loki. And at the very end of the game, we see a cutscene where Kratos encounters Thor, as Ragnarok approaches. So with much of his background out of the way, let's discuss everything Kratos brings to the table and what he pulled off in his war against the gods. First up is strength and attack potency. As a son of Zeus, Kratos has natural power that developed over time, as he is truly not just some mortal. Kratos, in his battle against Gigas, accidentally burned a being who predates the universe and creation itself. Which you could argue Universe Plus for this, but you could also get into the 5th dimensional range, which is beyond time and space, given lore from the latest God of War. And out of practice, heavily suppressed Kratos was able to bully Bearmen, which is insane given that the Bearmen derive their power from the transcendental Bear God, a conceptual being that can be argued to be beyond time and space, given the transcendental nature of other gods, which we will get later into. Kratos even further confirms that this is rage made real or physical, which could reinforce that he is battling forces beyond physical time and space. Pre-Prime Kratos could stagger titans like Atlas even with his own strikes, the same titan who could hold the infinite cosmos casually and with skill from Kronos, whose birth brought time into existence. He could go toe-to-toe with Ares, the god of war himself, and even physically overpowered him. He absolutely ragdolled the primordial Thanatos, the god of death, like he owed him rent. He played tug-of-war cleanly with Hades, the ruler of the underworld, outright negged his soul-snatching abilities, this being the same Hades who ragdolled titans in the past. He was also able to overpower Hercules, a fellow son of Zeus, known for his legendary strength. Hell, even Zeus, the head god of the Greek pantheon, found himself getting beat up in the showdown with Kratos. And keep in mind that with raw power alone, Zeus helped forge Blades of Olympus, which was strong enough to banish all of the titans in one fell swoop. And this blade easily matches weapons that can splinter the World Tree, which we will get later into. Kratos also bullied Poseidon in power, who for reference dropped Atlas with a single blast, a being who can bear the cosmos, that if dropped would destroy creation. With these gods, especially heavy hitters like Zeus being the ones that defeated beings that forged the cosmos or the multiverse, easily puts Kratos' attack potency at low multiversal to multiversal plus. This range for his attack potency makes sense, especially when the cosmology is further expanded on in the later games. For example, the World Tree contains infinite strands transcending time and space, giving it 5th dimensional and possibly higher scaling. And to further remove doubt, a young world serpent in Thor shook the World Tree while fighting, and the serpent tanked a strike and blow from Thor that splintered the World Tree, and Battlefield removed the serpent. This same serpent is later knocked out from strikes from Baldur, who was blatantly overpowered by Kratos, who did not even want to fight him in the first place. With all of these feats in mind, it is easy to argue Kratos in the multiversal to multiversal plus ranges of attack potency. However, there is much higher scaling for Kratos, as I'll discuss later on. Next up is speed. Sure, Kratos may not seem that fast through gameplay, but through the lore, he is easily one of the fastest mofos out there. Kratos has several speed feats throughout the game that can give him the range of massively faster than light to even higher metas like infinite and immeasurable speed. For example, the primordial god of death, Thanatos, who waged war in Poseidon even before time existed, got ran down on and mugged by Kratos alongside his brother. This is consistent given that the primordials were able to fight for an eternity before time and space even existed, giving them immeasurable levels of speed, meaning that they can move beyond the limitations of time-space and are automatically much faster than light. Kratos has outright fought beings that can easily traverse the universe, and we know the sky itself, or the cosmos, is described as infinite in size in the canon novelizations. He takes down and brutalizes Hermes, who is so fast that he can quickly take souls to realms like the underworld from the mortal realm, which is also infinite in nature as confirmed in artwork and in an interview.
There's no gravity, but at the same time things are like kind of shifting all the time, and there's infinite distance in the back, things are flying, falling, exploding.
This is further reinforced by Kratos being able to keep up with Hermes, who can dodge Helios' light, which is so fast and so bright that it can fill the infinite underworld in an instant. So Kratos, before even reaching the peak of his power, was already solidly able to fight at infinite levels of speed, which means that he is so fast that he can keep up with beings who can cover infinite distances in finite time. But going off of the Titans, he can easily be argued to having immeasurable levels of speed, which is being able to move beyond time's limitations entirely. If that wasn't enough, he also kept up with the Sisters of Fate, who govern the destinies of all things in the realms, and as such could be argued to being even faster than Hermes and the Titans. Kratos is also faster than Valkyries in the later game, beings whose job is basically to quickly travel the realms that transcend time and space, and have a similar job to Hermes. Plus, Kratos, especially when enraged, can blitz Baldur, and while restraining himself, still kept up with him. The evidence clearly suggests that Kratos has higher metas of speed scaling in his bag, which I personally believe is his most downplayed section. I know some people will try to bring up game mechanics, but think of it this way. As I covered in my Doomslayer video, according to the lore and other information, Doomslayer was able to kill and keep up with the Dark Lord Devoth, who created and would destroy Hell, a multiversal to arguably hyperversal dimension that predates time-space, yet through game mechanics, the Doomslayer can die by falling into lava or by getting slashed by an imp, even though canonically speaking, his armor has never been pierced. Whereas in the Halo universe, the Spartans can canonically sprint large distances, but within some Halo games like Halo 1, 2, and 3, that feature is outright absent. Or like how through lore and obviously scaling, Goku can destroy multiverses, but in video games like Dragon Ball FighterZ or Xenoverse, he can be beaten by much weaker characters that cannot, like Videl or Yamcha. Or like how logically and seriously speaking, Superman and Wonder Woman would slap the f*** out of Batman or Shaggy in multiverses, but are clearly on an equal playing field due to game mechanics. Now for durability. After slaying Ares, he survived the point-blank detonation of the raw power from the God of War. He endured combat from the great god Poseidon, who shakes realms from his own realm, and was unable to put Kratos down. Due to his battle and struggles with Hades, he has shown that he can tank soul destruction and manipulation. Kratos also can't really be killed as he is the keeper of hope. Essentially, if hope exists somewhere, Kratos will come back. Kratos also literally rejected dying and thus will regenerate and come back from death. He has massive energy resistances as he survived and tanked a lightning bolt from Zeus himself. He survived stabbing himself with the Blade of Olympus, which literally bypasses immortality, and can kill even the mightiest of gods. When things get rough, he can actively heal his own wounds, and he tanked blows from Baldur that knocked out the World Serpent, which could take multiversal attacks. Overall, Kratos is just a badass who will either heal up, tank, come back from death, or run through most, if not all damage you throw his way, on any level scaling to, and if not a bit above his multiversal plus scaling. Hell, even Mimir admitted Kratos might be the toughest son of a bitch to ever exist, as Kratos literally ran through the extremes that even the likes of Odin wouldn't survive, and he wasn't even wearing a t-shirt. With a long slew of abilities, stolen powers, inherent powers, and weapons to choose from in composite form, let's give a rundown of what Kratos can bring to the arena. His main two weapons that should strike fear in his enemy's heart are the Blades of Chaos, his most famous, and the Leviathan Axe revealed in the latest game. The Leviathan Axe, by the way, was forged to rival Mjolnir, a weapon that shook all the realms and splintered the World Tree. And the Blades of Chaos were outright called a better weapon than the Axe, which means that he has multiple multiversal plus weapons to bully people with, and the Blade of Olympus is arguably even stronger as well. He has the Eyes of Truth that can negate the Fury's illusions. He has the Oath Stone, which can create an energy clone of himself that can also swap with him if he is trapped. He has an amulet that basically lets him control space and time in an area and make himself immune to those manipulations. He can use the Sun Shield of Helios to summon and deflect incoming attacks. He has the Gauntlets of Zeus, which amp his strikes and even allow him to use lightning. He also has Poseidon's Trident and Icarus's Wings, making all forms of movement easy. His Claws of Hades can auto-fight and tear out souls, even the souls of gods. He has the Golden Fleece, which can deflect hacks and attacks back at the foe. He also has talismans that can slow down time and decrease the stats of nearby foes. And after killing Hermes, he obtained his boots, making him even faster than before. Overall, Kratos is one of the most versatile warriors you could ask to have in a versus battle, especially with the context of using his composite form. So with his powers, weapon experience, and rage, Kratos will be a very interesting foe for the likes of Gorr, the God Butcher. Speaking of Gorr, let us get into the opponent of Kratos in this battle. While yes, Gorr was recently featured in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we will be observing Gorr as he is portrayed in the comics. Far off in a corner of the universe, an alien father struggled to keep his people alive. His neighbors, and most importantly his family, were struggling to survive in the barren landscape of their world. Every day, Gorr would wonder why the gods had forsaken him and his people. They can do all these wonderful miracles, but they won't even take the time to save him. These questions led to the absolute hate of the gods, and as all of his loved ones fell around him, Gorr pressed on. Eventually, he would come across two fallen gods, one with a massive sword. This sword, Gorr felt drawn towards, and as he picked it up, he bonded with the Necro Sword, a god-slaying device of unreal power. From then on, Gorr decided to make his own miracles, and proceeded to launch a genocide across all of time and space against the many different pantheons of gods, eventually coming face to face with a trio of Thors, which he had to take down to realize his mission. Alright, so we have attack potency. Now, obviously Gorr was not much to consider prior to transformation. However, upon bonding with a Necro Sword, aka the All Black, Gorr became a menacing figure on a cosmic scale. For starters, Gorr immediately post-fusion went on a hunting spree for gods. While plenty of gods he slayed were vague in nature, we do have a good idea of how strong some of them were. For example, Thor remarked that some of these gods were able to wrestle black holes for fun, and of course, Gorr managed to bully and enslave young Thor for days, the same young Thor who likely has even more experience than Kratos, given that he said that he was in more battles than gods twice his age. As he matured in power through the All Black, his strength only grew significantly. Gorr was able to casually slaughter so many pantheons of gods as entire shelves of books in the Heart of Infinity are dedicated purely to his victims. In just his simple Gardok constructs, his berserkers were a rough fight for Thor that he had to fight them for hours. And modern day Thor is no pushover, as he has many feats of insane magnitude. For example, he was able to push around the World Tree, which has 9 to possibly an infinite number of realms, and it's a concept that can be argued to envelop multiversal to outright outerversal beings like the Living Tribunal. Not only has he moved the World Tree, Thor has temporarily knocked out the Phoenix Force, which even in manifestation bodies / avatars, is a threat to all levels of reality while tethered to a host. He's also matched and overpowered the Silver Surfer, who could destroy solar systems and galaxies with ease. He's made Galactus cry out in pain with his God Blast, and he has even held his own against the Sentry, who has the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, which given how Herald powerhouses are portrayed, is not a hyperbole. This gives just simple constructs of Gorr, solar system to galactical to arguably universal scaling, assuming that Thor would logically be asserting deadly force given the nature of the conflict. Oh yeah, and Thor could also knock back and contend with an amped Juggernaut, who in base could literally endure the realm of oblivion itself. And that is not all, because just Gorr's army of constructs alone were potent enough to raid Asgard. Not only did they fold Asgard, but the damn constructs proceeded to keep King Thor of all people in captivity, bullying him and forcing him to stay on Asgard and relive his biggest L every day. And old King Thor is a being who is destined to surpass the Odin Force in power, a force by the way that is capable of grappling with Starship Hulk, a being who uses magic and power beyond anything Doctor Strange has ever seen before. Old King Thor being comparable or likely surpassing Odin is really impressive because Odin himself has feats of brawling with Galactus, an abstract consumer of worlds, Seth, whose battle waged across infinite planes of existence and was tearing at the fabric of the multiverse, and he also nullified a fire that would have wiped out the World Tree, which contains 9 universes and likely an infinite number of them. To think that Gorr scales to and above that is downright scary. On top of this, Gorr once hit the trio of Thors so damn hard that the World Tree itself bled at the roots. That is right, the archetypal tree that contains the Living Tribunal bled when Gorr hit other characters, not even the tree itself. This and the plethora of feats presented before, in my opinion, solidifies that while Gorr can be argued a high multiversal threat, his later showings definitely scale higher, and he gets into the hyperversal ranges if you really want to go there. Hyperversal being an echelon of power that can affect and destroy beyond 12-dimensional constructs and much higher, which the World Tree can certainly be argued to reach. For instance, with Seth's attempt to destroy the World Tree being stated to being able to affect infinite planes of reality, and with how saving the World Tree from being destroyed meant saving all worlds and all realities. Additionally, when Doctor Strange absorbed power from the World Tree, just as Midgen, he stated that he had sensed more magic than he had ever encountered before, which would include his classic self, which had already encountered and fought in several hyperversal to outerversal realms, such as the Dark Dimension. But for this battle, we will go with a more conservative tier, which is still in the high multiversal ranges. Having gotten Gorr's attack potency and strength out of the way, let us take a dive into the speed scaling of the God Butcher. We know that even in early Gorr was out there slaying pantheons of gods. Given the nature of these gods and how they likely transcend time and space, to be fast enough to blitz gods in Marvel, you have to scale beyond the normal speed meta. That is, faster than light has left the chat, dog. You see, Gorr was casually blitzing gods early on and even effortlessly ran down on a young Thor. Again, young Thor can keep up with Apocalypse, a being who has blitzed all of the X-Men before, and has fought the Phoenix Force, who can fight on infinite planes of existence simultaneously. And the same Thor that flew to the center of infinity itself and quickly flew across to another infinite universe in moments got blitzed by Gorr rather easily. Again, modern Thor has been able to keep up with the Silver Surfer, who is so fast that he can time travel through pure speed alone, even in combat. And of course, he's superior to Ares, who was able to fight against X-Men within a plank, the smallest measure of time. Meaning that modern Thor, let alone Old King Thor, has casual infinite speed to immeasurable speed feats that outright transcend the speed of light. On top of this, Gorr casually flies to the same city and later is shown to traverse the void beyond creation. The speed granted by the Necro Sword is so insane that it allowed Gorr to slap not one or two, but 3 Thors at the same time. So I think it is safe to say that Gorr easily has infinite to high immeasurable levels of speed. Thanks to the Necro Sword, Gorr can also heal almost instantly, as he's been stabbed, slashed, and blasted by Thor's lightning, even while off guard. And even so, he was up and fine moments later, and also tanked his eye being gouged out by a young Thor up close. Perhaps his only true weakness is his durability of his psyche, because Gorr is absolutely insane and literally lost an argument with his own construct of his kid that cost him his plan essentially, as Gorr realized that he had become what he had hated most. However, I would say that this mental episode was more so plot-based, as it literally was related to his acts in Marvel itself. On a neutral playing field, however, this may not apply, but I felt it was worth to mention nonetheless. All in all, while Gorr did not have that many instances where his durability came into question, we do have enough battles and feats involving his constructs that allow us to paint a decent picture on what Gorr can withstand. Alrighty, now we get into intelligence and skill. This is a really interesting section because it might not be considered often for a character like Gorr. Obviously, prior to the sword, Gorr was not much to consider in terms of intelligence. However, upon merging with it, it definitely amped his capabilities in the tactical field and improved his fighting prowess. Given that his constructs are sentient on their own and can act accordingly, Gorr became a master of implementing these constructs in battle. Gorr has shown that he is thorough in the field, as he not only slaughters pantheons, but he leaves constructs as traps to attack any who seek to help the fallen gods. Gorr also worked to perfect the art of slaying and torturing gods, as evidenced in his exchange with Thor, as he says that he has wiped out many gods of war, gods of death, gods of chaos, and much more. And Gorr actually managed to out-torture a god of torture. And it makes sense that he got so skilled in swordplay and brawling, as he has literally hunted gods for thousands of years. So yeah, I will say that his awareness of his own power set, his sadistic nature, and his ability to flood the battlefield with constructs and other powerful abilities makes Gorr a fighter you did not want to underestimate. He is tough, hateful, and well versed in the art of killing the unkillable. He has basically done what Kratos has done, but even more effectively and far longer. His attacks can even be argued to being able to hit on a conceptual level, as even the archetypal world tree bled at the roots when Gorr struck with more power. Plus, due to merging his consciousness with the Necro Sword, he gained an ability that allowed him to possess celestial bodies, and he even threatened to consume the entire universe as well. And his ability to create a god bomb to kill gods across all of time and space was stated to make Ragnarok look like child's play. Given Ragnarok is the death of gods like Odin, who as I said can basically deal with multiversal threats, is insane. However, the thing with the god bomb is that he needed a lot of time to make it, and he basically made it with cumulative power, so I wouldn't say that his energy output is that level with hacks at all times. Still though, his constructs, blasts, swords, and stats make Gorr one of the toughest combatants to face in a versus matchup. So now that we got the stats and abilities out of the way for these two God Slayers, with both in mind, who would win if these two collided on a neutral fighting ground? Now, it is worthy to mention that there is higher scaling regarding Yggdrasil in God of War, because according to the God of War card game, which you can argue on its true canonicity, the tree is linked to endless possibilities, implying that there is a countless number of timelines within it, making the world tree an even more complex and larger multiversal structure, which of course a young Thor and World Serpent were able to make shake and splinter. Obviously, splintering the world tree is impressive, but it is clearly not the same level as destroying it. But even if we assume that Kratos could destroy such a structure, it wouldn't quite scale to the same magnitude as destroying the world tree in Marvel, which Gorr would logically be able to destroy casually. No matter how you really frame it, Kratos will likely be forced to go uphill in stats like attack potency for this battle, since Gorr simply just outscales in certain categories, no matter how you slice it. For speed, both are incredibly fast, and I would argue that Gorr is slightly faster because he was able to fight 3 Thors at the same time. Although Kratos was able to keep up with speedsters like Hermes and Zeus pretty well, the other times he had to face so many fast opponents at once was against the Sisters of Fate. So although I can see him fight several fast and strong opponents at once, I cannot see him do it as effectively as Gorr. However, I can see Kratos giving Gorr a run for his money when it comes to close quarters combat and raw strength. So, I'd expect Gorr to rely on his bladed weapons and range to keep the Ghost of Sparta at bay. Even if Kratos were to use his time-stop talismans and abilities, which might catch Gorr off guard, Gorr would likely be able to resist them thanks to the aforementioned speed scaling. So strength and speed favor Gorr, but what are the possible win cons for Kratos? Well, for one, Kratos is very versatile. In his composite form, he has access to many moves that could potentially hurt Gorr. For example, the Necrosword is a symbiotic extension of Null, and Null symbiotes have been shown to have a weakness for light, lightning, and other light-based powers of reasonable scale. And we saw this pretty well when a lightning bolt from Thor staggered even Null mentally and broke his control over the symbiotes. For Kratos, a spam of light and lightning combos could potentially bring devastating effects to Gorr and his symbiotic weapon. There's also the chance that Kratos and the Necrosword have a natural attraction to one another, but for me that would get more into headcanon. However, Gorr's berserkers are so strong that one managed to make Thor try and fight him for several hours, and an army of berserkers were able to beat an old King Thor into submission several times. This is insane, as both Thor and his King version have arguments to scale to if not outright above Kratos, so you can argue that even a standard berserker is as strong if not stronger than many of the mid-level gods you encounter throughout the God of War series. So Kratos would definitely be in serious trouble trying to get past the constructs, so we could see him struggle with an army of them while Gorr watches from afar. However, that is not to mention that Kratos has an army of Spartans that he could summon, but they would likely get wrecked by one berserker. Another way Kratos could potentially win is by reflecting Gorr's attacks with his Golden Fleece, but you can argue that Gorr's attacks would be able to destroy it and nullify Kratos' chances then and there. Gorr also straight up has much more experience, as he has killed countless gods of death, war, and whatnot, and he's fought multiple gods at the same time. After defeating Hades, Kratos obtained his soul-sucking claws, which could theoretically work on Gorr since he hasn't outright showcased any solid evidence for countering soul-based attacks. But it is likely that he does have soul resistance because Thor and Loki, who both have soul hacks, were unable to defeat Gorr through those means, or at least didn't think that it would work. Really, the only chance for Kratos to win is to successfully separate Gorr from the Necrosword and blast him to smithereens with a divine attack. But due to Gorr's incredible regeneration and bond to the All Black, it seems more probable that he would just regenerate from the attack. Now I know what you're thinking. Chuck, even if Gorr does kill Kratos initially, won't Kratos just come back due to his connection to Hope itself? Yeah, it is certainly within the realm of possibility, as Kratos has returned from death before. However, Gorr for sure gets the initial wins, and you can argue his attacks are conceptual, given his World Tree feat, and Kratos would likely not survive such a high-level conceptual attack. Either way, while the setting is incredible and the matchup would be insane to witness, I think Gorr takes it at the end of the day. The blend of his superior stats and his construct army would simply be too much for the God of War. I would argue that even without his constructs, he would be able to defeat Kratos as well, and could likely take on several Kratoses at once with his constructs. Also, one of Kratos' biggest problems is that although he is very versatile, most of his abilities come from gear and not from his very being, so having to switch his gear back and forth mid-battle would be distracting to say the least, while Gorr on the other hand really just has to rely on the Necrosword's own abilities. Now, if we were to do a more narrative or plot-based battle, it is likely that the Necrosword may value Kratos over Gorr, given that Thor stated that the Necrosword was made to be wielded by a god, and that it mocked Gorr. Although the Necrosword did indeed bond heavily to Gorr in later runs to the point that the universe would have been consumed by him, it seems that the All Black does not fully favor Gorr. So, since Kratos was born a demigod and outright elevated to the level of a god, the Necrosword may want to bond with him more, especially if it is impressed by his battle prowess. With this hypothetical aside though, I think Gorr takes this battle. But anyways, what do you guys think? Do you agree with the matchup's results? Please let me know, and I hope that you are all hyped for the new God of War game as much as I am. Thanks so much for watching, please subscribe to the channel, please check out Atlas VPN, and have a good one. Peace out.